All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Go ahead and get your questions in there, and we'll get them answered. If you are on a mobile device, it's going to be below the video. If you're on um, a normal desktop or laptop computer, it's going to be to the right of the video. So I start with questions. If you're new to office hours, I start with questions that were asked up to an hour before. So Mitchell L. Gufran, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Daniel R. These were questions that were posted late last night. So if you are still here and would like to get your question answered, go ahead and just copy and paste your question there, and it will get answered during the office hours. I'm going to be starting today with John Z. So John Z says, "Hi Q, my driver swing speed is 80 miles per hour. Why would I want to de-loft and iron 30%? When getting height is already a problem?" It's because you're going to transfer more energy to the golf ball. Now, we'll go lower, but you're going to hit the golf ball a lot further, which is going to allow you to play much better golf. So now, if you're in a situation where you can't, you need to get the ball to go higher because maybe you need to carry it over something, and because if your club head speed's that low and you're hitting the ball lower, right? Well, might have a little bit of a hard time holding greens. So in that case, you may want to hit the ball higher, but in general, it's going to be better for you to always kind of de-loft that face a little bit. It's also going to stabilize your impact and make you hit the ball a lot more consistently. So the reason why that is because the force, which is your hand, is leading the mass, which is the club head. That's going to give you much more stable impact. Whereas if you're flipping, your impact's just going to be very unstable, and you may be hitting it higher, but you're just not going to be very consistent with it. So, but there might be situations where you do need to hit the ball up a little bit higher to hold a green. But in general, de-lofting the face is always going to be a better thing for you. But really, what I'd recommend doing for you, John, is get that club head speed up. Get it up above, try to get it up to 90 miles per hour. That's just going to make things a lot easier for you. And the way to do that would be the 20-minute distance fix. Now, in the 20-minute distance fix, we're focused on the driver, but when you gain club head speed with your driver, it's all the way through the bag. It's not like you're just going to get club head speed with your driver only and then everything else is going to stay the same. No, as your club head speed goes up, we're going to be raising your club head speed, but that's going to be with all the clubs. It's going to translate all the way through the bag. So that's what I'd recommend doing, is working through that 20-minute distance fix. We're seeing an average of about 12 miles per hour from people, which is about 27, 30 yards, somewhere in there. Soft conditions, you're looking at about 30 yards of a distance right there. So that's a huge gain that you can get off the tee. I know, I think everybody would benefit from hitting it 30 yards further. And like I said, that's not just going to be off the tee. Your irons are also going to go further. Now, they're not going to go 30 yards further, but they're going to go further, shorter clubs, so it's shorter proportion. So you're not going to get as much out of that. But typically with your driver, you're looking for every mile per hour that you gain, you're getting about 2.5 yards, 2.5 to 2.7 yards. So soft conditions, you're looking at 2.5 yards. And in firmer conditions, you're looking at 2.7 yards. And you can get it, you get a good bounce or something like that, you can even get more than that. So that's what I'd be looking at doing if you're really looking to improve your game. So that'd be the 20-minute distance fix. To get to the 20-minute distance fix, all you have to do is go to the top of the page there, hover your mouse cursor over that instruction tab. That'll expand a menu, and you'll see the first option there will be the 20-minute distance fix. Go to that quick start and work through there. If you do anything, I'd recommend doing that, because it's kind of it dips your toes into a lot of the drills that are in the course, and you can kind of see already, okay, what's helping me, what's not, and so on and so forth, and you can get geared up to go into more detail into those drills further along in the course. So that's what I would highly recommend doing if you're looking to not only hit the ball higher, but further. All right, so Don B says, I learned the square-to-square system at 24. It was too upright for me, but I kept the flat left wrist. Very accurate off the tee, but not real long. Was for a long time, but at 74, 220 is max. Any help was at a 4, now 8 to 9 range. So Don, I'd recommend working through our 20-minute distance fix course. That's what's really going to help you to add distance. So if you're hitting 220 max, that means that you're probably swinging around 80 miles per hour, because 220 max would be probably around the max range that you're going to get with 80 mile per hour club head speed. I'm guessing that's about where you're at. So I would try to get that up to 90, so that way your max is going to be more like 250, right? So that's going to make things a lot easier for you to play golf. So again, go to the 20-minute distance fix. Work through that first drill. I'm telling you, that first quick start drill, we see people gain a lot of club head speed just doing that one session right there. Now, to make it fully ingrained and to make it second nature, you're going to have to do it more, but you'll see the speed go up right there in that first session. So that's what I'd highly recommend doing, is going to that 20-minute distance fix and working through that course. And again, to get to the 20-minute distance fix, go to the top of the page, hover your mouse over the instruction tab, let that expand that menu. It's going to be the first option there, that 20-minute distance fix. So James H says, what is the drill that I can do to make sure my hands return at impact to where they were at address? I always seem to be above my starting point with my right wrist arched. So I would say probably the move is going to help you with that. One thing to keep in mind is typically the impact position is not the same as the address position. So just to kind of give you an idea, this is your typical address position, right? A little bit of forward shaft lean. You know, some people will have a little bit more forward press. Some people will have the club a little bit more straight up and down. But this is typically what you're going to see is something that looks like this. This is a fairly natural address position here. So impact's going to look more like this, right? So my body's opened up a little bit more, right? And my shaft's leaning typically a little bit more forward. Now, like I said, some people have that shaft leaning more forward at address. It's kind of close to the position that it's going to be at impact. But basically, no one is starting with their hips open like this. And the reason for that is that if you start with your hips open like this, it's going to be difficult to get your hips to open in the backswing, right? To get the hips to turn in the backswing. So typically you want to set up with your hips fairly square so that they can turn more easily in the backswing. But in the downswing, when we come into impact, we want to get into a position where our body is opening up. So that would look something like more like this, right? So to be able to, because there's forces involved, in order to get the body, in order to get the club back into that position at impact, we need to get the body opening up, and that can come from getting into a better position at the top. You know, you're talking about how your wrist is more like this. I'm guessing you mean arched, meaning that it's kind of pushing that club through and flipping through impact. That is from not getting that proper rotation, probably not getting the club shallowed out in the backswing. So that move course is going to get you to where you're getting this club shallowed out, and you're also squaring that face earlier. So now I can rotate my body into impact and have that forward shaft lean and have that body opening up, and to be able to get that club in a pretty close position to what you were at address if you have that forward press. So the reason why, if the club is coming down steep, we have issues is that we have to make a compensation in the downswing to get this club on plane. So if I'm coming down, this club is steep. If I have to get this club on plane, I'm going to have to stand up to make that happen. When I stand up, I have to flip the club. You know, that's that arching of the wrist that you were talking about to get to the golf ball, and then I lose all that forward shaft lean. So you're doing that as a compensation and effort to be able to hit the golf ball good. You can hit the ball well doing this. I mean, I can hit the ball in the center of the face, square club face, have that club on plane. I can come in and I can make ball first contact when I do that. The problem is that it's going to be a little bit difficult to be consistent because typically that face is going to be open and I'm going to have to flip, right? And also, I'm going to be adding a lot of loft to this face. I'm typically going to be coming in pretty shallow unless I really slide forward to be able to get a divot out in front. You know, there's just some things in this swing that it's just going to make you more difficult to be more consistent. So if we get this club shallowing out, so we're up to the top and then we're coming down, we get this club shallowed out, so we can see my hands. My hands are going this direction and the club head's going that direction. It's shallowing out. Typically what we're seeing is we see the hands go this direction and the club gets steep, right? It's kind of looking, I'm exaggerating, but a lot of times it'll look like that. So we need to get that opposite, right? We need to get that club shallowing out and then get that face squaring earlier. So now I don't have to do that flip. I can just rotate into contact with that square club face and forward shaftling. And that's going to allow me to really get some good compression on the ball, be very, very consistent. The best drill for this is the tennis racket drill from the Move course. So if I grab a tennis racket here, you can see I have a tennis racket. The reason why I like to use a tennis racket, one, I can do a lot of reps inside and not put a hole through my drywall or something like that. But also, this gives me a very good understanding of my club face, right? So if I imagine this, the strings of the racket here is my club face, I have a very good understanding of where that is. That club out in space, it's a little bit hard to see that. So I want to get these strings pointing up to the sky initially. So up to the top, strings pointing up to the sky, and then the strings also pointing more toward the camera, out away from me. And that's that squaring of the face. So if you look at that from this angle, I'm here, and I'm coming down, and I'm shallowing, and I'm turning that handle. So now from here, now I can rotate into contact. If I scoot back, I get this shallowed out, I get this turning, I can rotate into contact and have lots of forward shaftling there. So that's what I would recommend doing, is working through the Move course and the tennis racket drill specifically in the Move course to help you get to where you want to go. The easiest way to get to that is click the house icon at the top of the screen. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses that we offer on the website. Click on the Move and get started there. Work through all of them, but 1.3 is going to be that tennis racket drill that I was just talking about. So Robbie G says, what position should the ball be in stance for different clubs? I thought I seen somewhere on site saying always online with left logo, left ear, and it appears different with wider stance, but seen Clay in a video yesterday saying iron more center compared to driver. So basically, you can make this very sad. I think people really overcomplicate ball position a little bit. But basically, you can make this very, very easy. You only really need 2 ball positions in your golf swing. You can do the 4 ball position method that I'll talk about here in a second, but let's go over what the 2 ball position method would be. So any shot that you're hitting off of the turf, where the ball is sitting on the turf, straight down from the lead ear is going to be a pretty good spot to be. And that's going to put it just slightly ahead of the middle of your stance. So the easiest way to do that, and this is only if you have a good spine angle and all that stuff. If I'm like this, right, at address, straight down from my lead ear is going to be way too far forward. So if I have that proper spine angle here, right, proper spine angle, straight down from the lead ear is going to put me just ahead of the middle of my stance. So the easiest way to kind of do this is just get in your address position here, right, your proper address position, slightly angled away with our spine. And we take my club and I'm going to put it on my ear. And I'm just going to drop it straight down from my ear. And then I'm going to push the club out to where the golf ball is. And that club should be right behind the golf ball there, right? So if I'm in that's going to come down right just ahead of the middle of my stance and drop that out. And that's where it is. Now for the driver, that's the only, every shot that you hit off the turf, you can do that. Whether it's a 3-wood or a wedge, you can play that from that same spot there. Now, I can go over a little bit of modifications that you may make for those clubs here in a second, but this is the most simple ball position where you only have to think about 2 ball positions ever is the way you can do it. Now, driver, right, because we're hitting this ball up on a tee and we want this club to bottom out before it gets to the golf ball, I like to think in reference to the lead shoulder. I don't like to say the stance because the stance can widen or narrow, right? So if I have a very narrow stance and I play it off the inside of my foot, that's going to be pretty close to where my other ball position is. And if I have a very wide stance and I play that off the inside of my foot, that's going to be too far forward most likely. So what I like to say is the lead shoulder here, get in your address position, whatever your address position is with your driver. This is about what I look like with my driver, right? If I take my club, now, for a lot of people, that is going to be straight down, is going to be just inside the foot. But if I take my driver here, put it on my shoulder, drop it straight down to the ground, and then move it straight out to the golf ball, that's where that ball position it needs to be. That's going to put it right in the perfect position every single time. Now, that's the 2-ball position approach. Now you can do a 4-ball position approach. The driver is the same. The only difference is for shots that you hit off the turf. So for me, what I like to do is we just talked about how straight down from the lead ear is going to be slightly ahead of the middle of my stance. For wedges, I like to play the ball basically right in the middle of my stance. This does a couple things. One, it helps me get a little bit steeper angle of attack. If that ball is back in my stance a little bit, I can hit down on it a little bit more. This helps me to, 1, hit it with a little bit more spin, and 2, hit it a little bit lower. These are 2 things that I like to do with wedges, and I think that most people will benefit from these. These are shots, wedge shots are typically shots you want to get up on the green and stop very, very quickly. And you want to have good control with those. So hitting it lower with more spin typically gives you a lot of control with this, allows it to stop, and that lower ball flight makes it a little bit more controllable. So I like to play it about in the middle of my stance there. That's with wedges. Now with my 3-wood that I'm hitting off the turf, hybrid, maybe long irons, like a 3-iron, 2-iron, or something like that. I don't carry those. I just carry a 3-wood, hybrid, 3 hybrid, and then a 4-iron down through a pitching wedge. But for my 3-wood and my hybrid, what I do is I play those just a little bit more forward in my stance. So if my normal ball position for shots off the turf, straight down from my lead ear, I'll go a ball forward of that. That's going to allow me to come in a little bit more shallow with those, and that's going to help me get those shots a little bit more in the air. So 3-wood, hybrid, shots that typically may come out too low if you play them in that position or even further back than that. I like to play those a little bit further up in the stance, and that allows me to come in more shallow to get the ball up there high with a higher launching shot. So that way I can get the ball up in the air a little bit more easily. So that's really what I would recommend doing, but don't overcomplicate it. It's really simple. You don't have to have a different ball position for every single club. I've heard people talk about that. I think that's way too complicated. You don't need to, you may have seen the book, Ben Hogan's book, where he's got the chart where he actually changes his stance, like he opens and closes his stance based on the club he's using. Again, I think that overcomplicated. That works for Ben Hogan, but for the average golfer or even the seasoned golfer, unless you're like a pro, that's their job, and you got to find the precise ball position for every single club that works best for you, then that may be good for you. But if you're not in that situation, then keeping it really simple and then focusing more on the things that are really going to help your game, like the top speed golf system, gaining more speed and things like that, that's what's really going to help you to take you to the next level more easily. So it looks like Robbie had another question here. He says, I worked my way through the lag course and struggling on downswing from when arm is parallel, max lag. I create lag, but could not get more practice. I release from here. My hands are higher and to the right pocket at last parallel rather than lower my thighs. And this feels like I'm flipping and no shaffling. The only way I can get my hands in what looks like the correct position is in slow motion and feel as though my hands come across thigh first before release. So what I'd recommend doing, Robbie, is work on the straight line release course. So sounds like you're getting the lag. So we're getting this position of lag, which is great. That's what we want. We want to be getting that nice sharp angle at this max lag position. This is where you're going to start releasing the club. Now, a lot of people are able to get into this nice max lag position, but what ends up happening is we get this club releasing still too early when we get to the golf ball. So we have a good amount of lag here, and then we just release it very early. So what I'd recommend doing is working on the straight line release and or the move course. These courses are going to get you to be getting that forward shaftling at contact. So I would just look at your swing and see exactly what's going on with your swing. So if you look at your swing and you see that you're coming down steep, so if you look at it from your down the line, you see that this club is pointing, you see this club kind of going out like this. So maybe you're getting a sharp angle of lag, but you're kind of pulling this club straight down, and you see this you see this steep angle here. Well, if you do that, then my options are to either kind of come over the top or stick this club right in the ground, or stand up to get that club to kind of drop on the plane and then flip the club, right? So, and release that lag too early. So that's going to be the move course. If you see that happening, we need to get that club shallowing out and that club face squaring earlier in the swing so that we can come into contact. If you're not seeing that, then you probably want to work on the straight line release course. The straight line release course is going to help you to get that feeling of that club releasing out in front instead of at the golf ball. So look at your swing on video, see what's going on there. If you want help with your swing, you're not sure what to do, you're not sure what you're seeing on camera. I know it can be difficult if you don't have a lot of experience with it. We do offer an unlimited swing review program. We don't always have spots available, but if you're interested, make sure you go to the swing review page, the unlimited swing review page. Just click get a review at the top of the page. That will take you to the swing review page. If you scroll down, you'll see a list. We have 3 instructors, including myself, doing swing reviews. I don't have any spots available right now, but if you join my waiting list, you'll get email whenever we open up spots. And if you don't join the waiting list, then you may never get an email letting you know that spots are opened up, because typically we're selling out to the waiting list every single time. So a couple weeks ago, I opened up spots, or maybe it was last week. I opened up spots for my unlimited swing reviews, and we sent an email to the waiting list. Within 45 minutes, all those spots were gobbled up. They were all gone. So if you don't join that waiting list, you may never know that spots are available, and you may never get to sign up. So make sure that you join that waiting list. All you got to do is click that get a review page at the top of the screen. Go scroll down. Just click the waiting list for the instructor that you want. You can join the waiting list for all of them if you want, but join the waiting list for the instructor that you want, and then you'll be getting an email hopefully within the next month when spots become available. But take a look at your swing on video and see what's going on there, and then work through those appropriate courses. To get to either one of those courses, all you got to do is click that house icon at the top of the page. That's going to take you to the home page. If you scroll down the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses that we offer on the website. The move, if you're coming down steep, the straight line release course otherwise, and you'll see both of those there. Start with the drills, get the repetitions in. It's not going to happen all on its own just like that. It's not going to be one range session. You got to go, you got to put the reps in. It takes a long time to change these motor movements. If you're used to coming in to contact like this, it's going to take some time to change that and some repetition. So I wish it worked out that you could just go to the range and you're going to fix your release just like that and be comfortable with it. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. We got to do some repetition. We got to slow it down, break it down. Sounds like you're doing it in slow motion. It's just a matter of doing it, getting it to where you're doing it faster and faster and faster and faster until you're able to do it at full speed. So that's why I'd recommend doing moving forward here. So Jeff P says, what is the best draw setup for consistency? It really just depends. I think the best way to set up to hit a draw would be to take a little bit stronger of a grip. So this is going to help you to close the face a little bit. So let's understand first what helps you to hit a draw. So a draw is when you get the face closed to the path a little bit. Now we don't want to have it too much. And when I say face, I mean the direction the club face is pointing at contact. And then the path is the direction the club head is moving through contact. So we want to hit a good, solid draw. We don't want to have a ton of difference between our face and our path. Otherwise, it's going to turn into a hook. If that ball is drawing more than 10 yards, you're losing distance because you're essentially hitting the ball with more of a glancing blow. But if you get it to where it's just kind of a slight draw, that you're still going to get good compression. You're going to get that nice curvature on the ball that you're looking for. So, like I said, the easiest way to do that is just to take a stronger grip. This is going to help you to close the face a little bit. It's going to make it more easy to close the face a little bit. And then what I would do is I would set up a little bit closed off because we want to get our face close to the path, right? So if our path is, we want our face kind of pointing toward the target, and we want our path to move a little bit in to out. So the easiest way to do that would be, if this is kind of straight parallel with my target, I'm going to take my body, right, and I'm going to close that off a little bit. And then I'm going to put that ball just a hair back in my stance. And again, the reason why I do that is that's going to help me to swing more into out. So face kind of pointing toward the target, a little bit more of a stronger grip, closed stance, and put the ball a little bit back in my stance. And then I'm just going to take kind of my normal swing and let that face get close to the path. I think that's the easiest and most consistent way to do it. But there's a lot of ways you can do it. I can set up to the ball just like this, straight, just the way I would with every single shot, and then I can feel like I swing more into out with a closed face. Some people do it that way. That's completely fine. Some people don't take a stronger grip. They just roll their hands over more and just close off their stance, and they just roll their hands over more. It's really up to you, but I think the easiest way to do it is to try to take a very similar swing to what you normally would. It's just set up a little bit more closed with a closed face, and then take the same swing you normally would, and you'll get that draw effect in there. So give that a try the next time you go to the range. It's something you have to practice. It's not something that you'll likely be able to go and execute perfectly just, on the course right now. If you get that tip, I would go to the court or go to the range and practice that a little bit, because there's a good chance you may snap hook it when you do that. You may completely overdo it. You don't want to start off your day doing that. You want to get a good feel for what gives you the best draw consistency. That just takes practice out on the range. All right. So James H says, you answered my question a little earlier about the hands returning at impact where they were at address. What I meant was, how do they return the hands the same distance from the body? As far as the arced right wrist, I meant thumb pointing down to the ground. Hope you can help. So, like I said, it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing that I'm saying. Now, the club does not have to return exactly, to the same position. It's not going to typically. The only thing that matters is how this club is oriented at contact. I don't know what your address position is with the club, so I don't have any idea if that's actually where you want it to be at contact. So it's not necessarily always going to be that way. Typically, the club is a little bit lower at address. The handle is a little bit lower at address than it is at contact, typically, but not always. Some players it's a little bit different. But I think you want to look at what's going on at contact and work back from that. The other thing is that it can kind of give you the illusion if your hips are moving toward the ball, right? So if I'm like this and my hips are moving toward the golf ball, that's not my club not necessarily returning to the same position. That's my hips moving toward the ball and taking away that space. It's not my hands necessarily doing this. It's my hips moving toward the ball. So that could be what's going on there as well. And that could be forcing your handle to get a little bit higher because you're losing that space. So look at your swing on video. Use something like a tripod or something so the camera is still and not moving around. If someone holds the camera, it's typically going to be moving around on you. Use an app like V1 Golf. It's free for Android and iPhone. It's going to help you to analyze your swing. You can video your swing and draw lines on there. So what you can do is you can draw what's called the tush line at address, and that's just a vertical line that goes right on your backside there, and see if your hips are moving toward the golf ball when you're coming into contact. Almost, I would say probably 70% or 80% of amateurs have their hips moving toward the golf ball because they don't rotate, right? Almost all amateur players are struggling from what's called early extension is what that is. So if we're extending too early, we want to be extending, but we want to be extending here, right? We want to get down and then rotate and extend. We don't want to be here and then extend right away, right? And that's going to move our hips toward the ball. So if that's what's happening, again, that move course is going to help you to do that, because when you're coming down steep, what happens is that you have to stand up. You get that early extension, your hips move toward the ball. You have to stand up to get this club on plane again. And now the handle is high. So my answer basically still is the same, even though you kind of reworded your question a little bit. It's the same. So Edward B says, Hey Q, I had lower back surgery on St. Pat's Day and had L4 and L5 fused. Hope to be hitting balls by mid-July, but depends on doctor's orders. I know we will have strict orders for me to get back. But my question is to you, do you have any advice in regards to get flexibility back to help in getting back to the game? I know my doctor will be my guide. Yeah, I mean, my advice would be to listen to your doctor. That would be my advice. Legally, I really can't give you anything, any advice for that. So you really, my best advice to you would be to listen to your doctor in regards to that, Edward. So Ronnie D says, for draws and cuts, is the swings the same exact? The foot line is aimed either left or right. Yeah, so the feeling is probably going to be very similar. Yeah, so basically what you do, I think this is the easiest way to do it, is for a fade, open up the body a little bit, open up the face a little bit, have the ball a little bit more forward in your stance, and try to swing along your toe line. So if you're always kind of swinging along your toe line, then the swing can basically feel the same. Now, it might have a little bit of a different feeling because the ball's a little bit more forward in your stance when you're trying to hit a fade. Because if you play the ball back in your stance, our club is coming down. It's swinging down on an arc, right? So it's swinging. It's swinging to the right, to the right, to the right, and then it turns the corner, and then it's swinging to the left, to the left. Well, if I have the ball back in my stance, well, my club may be coming in and swinging out to the right, which we don't want to do when we're hitting a fade. We need to have our face close to the path. So I need my path moving a little bit out to in when I hit the golf ball. So we'll move the ball a little bit more forward. So in that sense, it may feel a little bit different because the ball is just a little bit more forward for that fade. And then for the draw, it's the opposite, right? I want to have that little bit in to out, path coming through the ball. So I want that ball just a hair back in my stance. So where you're contacting the ball will feel a little bit different based on that. But really, if you're always feeling like you're swinging along your toe line, and you open and close the body, open and close the face, and move the ball a little bit in your stance, it can feel mostly the same. You just want to visualize the shot and have a sense. It's something you want to go practice. Go practice alternating hitting shots. This is one of the best ways to get a hold of your ball flight. It's something that's called variability training. Go out there and practice hitting fades and draws and alternating. Don't sit there and hit 20 perfect fades in a row, then hit 20 perfect draws in a row. Try to hit a fade and try it until you're successful. Once you're successful, switch to the draw, do it until you're successful, then switch back to the fade. And then try to get to where you can switch back and forth. You can get that perfect fade and draw back and forth, alternating. And if you do that, you'll have very, very good command of your ball flight. And if you can control that golf ball, you can play great golf. So that's what I would recommend doing. All right, so Richard S. says, morning Q, always such great information. Q, my question is, how to get the club from the top of the backswing to the slot of the downswing? Thanks, Q. So that's going to be the move. That's basically how you do that. You get the club shallowing out in the beginning of the downswing. So typically when we bring this club up, right, it's more vertical than the plane of the swing. So if we bring this club straight back down, we're going to be steep. We're going to be above that. And just for educational purposes here, when we're talking about being in the slot, what I'm talking about is when you're looking from down the line. It has to be the correct angle, by the way. It's got to be basically right down your hands here at address. It can't be way out over your target line or way behind you. It's got to be perfectly kind of down your toe line, down your hands. When I'm looking at that, and this isn't even the right camera angle here, but I'm going to try and trace this down the best I can. When I'm seeing that club come down the slot, typically what that means is that club is tracing right down that trail forearm. So if we're looking on a video, we're seeing that club tracing right down that trail forearm, just like that. Typically, if you're coming down steep, that club's going to be tracing down more vertically, right? More down like this. And if we're too underplane, that club will be coming down kind of like this, right? So it's way underneath my arm. This right here, that right there, that's in the slot, going right down my arm. So to get that club to be in that position, we need to get this club up here and then shallowing out right away, right? So if I come down, if I get here, right, and then I start down steep, that club's not going to work down, right? Or I may come down steep initially, and then I may go like this. I'm coming down steep, and then I may go like that to get it to drop underneath. And again, that's way underneath. So what I need to do is I need to get this club shallowing out right away. Like this is what we see tour players doing. We need to get this club shallowing out right away, and I need to rotate as I'm coming down so that this club can work right down my trail forearm and right in the slot there, right where we want to be. So that's going to be the move course. The tennis racket drill from the move course is one of the best drills out there. I had to be working on that. I spoke about that a little bit ago. Not sure if you saw that, Richard, but I'd highly recommend that drill for working on that. But that's going to help you to get that club, get that club shallowing out, get that rotation added in there with that. Because typically if you're coming down steep, you're not rotating, right? So we need to shallow it out so that we can rotate and get that club in the slot in the downswing. So work on the move course. That's most likely what's going to help you the most. To get to that course, all you have to do is go to the top of the page, click the house icon. That's going to take you to the home page. Scroll down that home page. You'll see a list of all of the courses on the website. And click on that move course and get started on those drills. So Daniel R says, any recommendations on where to start if feeling I've lost my swing? Have played for years, but I think I have so many swing thoughts now. I'm literally struggling to make even decent contact, especially with irons. So I just slow things down, like literally try to take a swing that takes about 5 seconds. That's what I'd recommend doing. And then once you get a kind of a sense, because you're probably thinking way too technically, way too internally focused. So with that, when I say internally focused, I'm thinking, what is my right arm doing? What is my nose doing? What is my left knee doing? Well, that takes away from the most important thing, which is impact, right? So you probably haven't lost your swing so much. It's just that you've lost your sense of impact. That's more than likely what's going on. So you need to get your sense of impact back. And to do that, what I'd recommend doing is go very, very slowly. So you can do this with a driver, or you can do this with irons. If you do it with irons, tee up the ball. Tee it up kind of high even, a half inch off the ground. Tee it up kind of high so that ground doesn't get in the way. And really, really try to make the swing last like 5 seconds, like I talked about. Typically, the swing lasts less than 2 seconds. We're talking like a second and a half. Our backswing is typically like three quarters of a second. Our downswing is a quarter of a second, and then the follow through is another, 3/4 of a second. So somewhere around a second and a half is the whole golf swing. That's how long it lasts. Try to make it last 5 seconds. Go really, really slow. So if you normally hit, let's say you do this with a 7-iron, okay, and you normally hit your 7-iron, let's say you hit it 160 yards, I would try to hit it 80 yards, right? That's what I would literally try to do. I'd try to go really, really slow, try to go 80 yards. And when you go really slow, you can feel what's going on. So you can feel, okay, am I swinging over the top? Am I swinging too much from the inside? Am I standing up? You're going to be able to feel things that are going on in your swing more easily, and that's going to help you to correct it. So go really slow. Try to get that perfectly struck shot where it's dead in the center, dead straight. Try to get a couple of those in a row. And then once you get a couple of those in a row, then try to build up the speed a little bit. Okay, now you hit that 7-iron 80 yards, 75 yards. Try to hit it 100 yards. Just try to build that up and keep building that. And it's going to give you a sense of how the club's working and getting that proper impact position. But focus on center face contact, starting that ball straight, getting it to go dead straight through the air, and then building up the speed from there. That's really the best way to kind of get your sense of impact back and how you move your body back. And you can do this with all clubs. You can do this with your 7-iron, but I would recommend when you're going slow, at least initially, to have it on a tee, and then once you get to where you're close to full speed with it, then you can place it on the ground. And, once you're at basically like 80% speed swings, kind of nice and easy swings, then you can put that ball on the ground and start working through it that way. So that's what I would recommend doing. And then once you kind of get that back, I would just start working through the system. And working through the stable fluid spine, working through, because that's really the number one key for consistency. Your spine angles may be way off or something like that. And it's making it difficult for you to get the club to work in the right direction or to get that ground contact good or whatever it might be. So start in the stable fluid spine, then work your way up to the power turn, the lag course, and so on and so forth. But get the reps in there, make sure it's ingrained, then move on to the next piece. So Robbie G says, Q, I joined the ball striking masterclass yesterday and will start on drills tomorrow. Do I need any training aids for the duration of the course? Nope, you don't have to have any training aids. Some alignment sticks may be helpful, but they're not required. There is a little bit of a speed training part of it later on. If you had a club head speed measuring device, that's like week 10 or something like that. I think it's like week 10. Something like that would be fine. Or a club head speed measuring device like the PRGR or something like that. Trying to think. I don't think there's really anything else that you really have to have. I just a driving range and your ability to see the ball flight is really the most important thing. For sure. One thing that can be helpful with the ball striking masterclass, again, not a requirement, is a AccuStrike mat. So I'm not sure if you've seen the AccuStrike mats. They're pretty cool. I don't have one handy in my office here, otherwise I'd show you. But basically, it's a mat that's kind of felt, and if you brush the felt one way, it turns a different color than if you brush it the other way, right? So it's green. It's like light green if it's brushed one way, and that's darker green if it's brushed the other way. So when you see that, you can see when you club down and you brush the turf, you can see where your contact point starting with the ground. You can see the direction your divot is going. You can see if you're toe down too much, because you're going to see that it's going to look more, it's not going to look like a perfect rectangle. It's going to be kind of like that. The bottom of it's going to be kind of like a point like that. That's going to be an indication that you're toe down. You're also going to be able to see if you're hitting it more in the center of the face because there's a little dot on there where you place the ball. And if you see the divot, is kind of to the left of that dot or to the right of that dot, that can indicate a strike location. So it's a really great feedback device to tell you a lot of the things that we're working on in the ball striking masterclass, what we call the big four. So the big four is going to be where you strike it on the face, your strike location, your ground contact, your path, and your face angle. So your face angle you can't really see on there, but your face angle is going to be pretty much always in the direction that the ball is starting. So if you're leaving the face open, the ball's going to start to the right. If you're leaving the face closed, the face is going to, or if you're starting the ball to the left, the face is typically going to be closed. There's other factors going on there that can make the face do different things, but that's mainly what it comes down to. So the AccuStrike Mag, I'll actually put a link in here. We did a video on it fairly recently, and I'll put a link in the comments here if you're interested and want to go check it out. Even if you're not doing the ball striking masterclass, it's a great training aid. Full disclosure, we do get a small portion of the sales from this, but trust me, it's real small. It's not like we're making millions of dollars off of this or anything like that. It's not even probably $1,000 to be honest. Let me find that video. But yeah, so if you use our discount code, you can get a small discount. So I believe it's Clay Ballard Indoor if you're looking for the indoor one, and Clay Ballard Outdoor if you're wanting to get the outdoor one. So the indoor one, you can use, and what's demonstrated in this video is going to be the outdoor version. Here we go. So I found the video and I'll post it in the comments here for you guys. So if you're interested in that, look in the comments and you'll be able to see that. Okay. And just click that link. That'll take you to the video where we could show you a few things to do with it. But that's the outdoor version. So the outdoor version, it's just kind of it's thinner. It's got a durable kind of rubber underlayer to it. So trust me, it's not you're not gonna break it or anything like that unless you like take a knife to it or something like that. But But with a club, just kind of hitting down through it. I know Clay's used the one that he's got a lot, and he hasn't damaged his or anything. So, and they're not real expensive either. I think they're like $50. So if you do damage it through a lot of wear and tear, right? If you're using it a lot, it's not that expensive to get a new one. If it was a lot of, if it was $150 or something like that, I would expect it to be way more durable, right? But it's not. So, and then there's the indoor version, which is basically the height of it. It's kind of like a thicker thing, and it goes next to your mat. It's like the same level as the mat, and you can use it next to your mat. You can use this at the driving range too. If you hit on the driving range on mats, you can just stand next to it and do that. So, but very, very cool training aid. We get tons of stuff sent to us, guys, like all kinds of stuff. I mean, you can imagine if you've ever been a member of any other kind of golf, newsletter kind of email type things. I won't name any names, but you may have seen where they'll promote anything, any little golf gadgets, like every week or every day almost, they're throwing a new golf gadget at you. We could do that if we wanted to. We could probably make a lot of money doing that. I mean, that's why that they do it. But we only send things to you guys that we think is actually going to help you, right? There are tons of club head speed measuring devices out there, but the PRGR is the one that we feel works the best, right? And is really the best. For the money, you absolutely cannot beat it. So that's why we do that. We could say, hey, no, we could say we could have an affiliate deal with all of the devices and tell you to get all of them. But that wouldn't be right. So we only promote things that we know really work well and that we think are going to help you guys. So check that out. Very, very cool device, or a very, very cool training aid. Like I said, there aren't that many really good training aids out there, and that falls in the category of a very good training aid. All right. So Daniel R says, thank you. No problem, Daniel. Glad I could help. So Ronnie D says, back to cut shots. Should you hold rather than full release? So you're still releasing the club. You may just feel like you're holding off the face, right? So if you're hitting a cut, the face needs to be open to the path. So you're not rolling the hands over maybe as much to square up the face. You may feel like you're kind of holding that face open a little bit more through contact. So you're still releasing the club. You're still coming out and you're releasing that club. It's just that you might have more of an under release where you're kind of holding that face open, meaning my trail hand's kind of staying underneath the club. It's kind of an under release is what I would call it. You're still releasing, but the face is more open, right? Whereas if you're hitting a draw, you might have more of an over release where I'm releasing the club still, but my trail hand's kind of coming over and rolling over the face. So if I'm hitting a fade, I may look more like this when I'm coming through contact, right? Whereas if I'm hitting a draw, I may look more like that, where the club face is more closed. You can see my trail hand. So here's my motion of my trail hand. With a fade, it might look more like that. And with a draw, it may look more like that, right? That's controlling the face. That's getting the face open or closed to the path. So Marlon M says, do you still like the PRGR to get swing speed? It's out of stock right now, but should be available mid-June. Yeah, the PRGR is the best device that we tested. It's the most accurate device that we tested. And it's what's really cool about it is that it's also not super expensive compared to a lot of the ones that are out there. It's about $200, whereas, your Swing Caddy 300, I think that's about $500. A lot of these devices, they're fine. The price point's a lot higher, and you don't really get any more out of it. The Swing Caddy, the new Swing Caddy 200, the Plus version, we didn't find it to be as accurate, and it's actually more expensive. And then the club head speed when you're swinging without a golf ball, we found was very inaccurate. It was not accurate at all. Whereas with the PRGR, it was still very, very accurate. So the PRGR is what we recommend for sure. Hopefully they'll get those back in stock quickly. But if you're in a pinch and you need something right now, I mean, the Swing Speed Radar is also good. It's $100. It's about $100 if you find that on Amazon. They don't offer an affiliate program, so we don't have an affiliate or anything like that. So just go to Amazon and search for swing speed radar. It's just a little blue device. They also have a red one that does tempo, but you don't really need that. I think it's a little bit more expensive, but it's basically the same thing. It just also reads your tempo. If you want that, then go ahead and purchase it. But yeah, the swing speed radar works fine. It's just a little bit finicky with the way that you set it up. So you just got to make sure you set it up the same way every single time. So the PRGR, if it's 6 inches closer, 6 inches to the right, 6 inches to the left, or wherever, if you're moving it around a little bit, it's still going to give you pretty good numbers. Whereas the PRGR, like if it's an inch this way, turned a few degrees that way, it can give you different numbers because it's just a little bit finicky in the way that you set it up. So that's why we don't really fully recommend that one. Plus, it does not give you ball speed, which is a nice thing to have. And it doesn't give you any kind of estimated distance, which again is a nice thing to have. So that PRGR gives you ball speed, club head speed, and it gives you an estimated distance. All are very nice things to have. So if you can get a Swing Caddy 200, the old version, they don't make it anymore. But if you can get the 200, not the Plus, but the regular 200, maybe you can find a used one for cheap. Those are what we used to say. That's the one you want to buy. And it's still a very good training. It's a very good launch monitor. It just doesn't. They just don't make it anymore, unfortunately, and their new versions aren't as good. So because of that, we went in to find another one that we felt is the best, and it worked out because we found the PRGR, and it happens to be even better than the Swing Caddy 2. So I definitely do recommend it. But if you're in a pinch, those are some other options. Basically, any device that we tested reads your club. It tells you if you're gaining speed. So it may not be accurate in a sense. It may tell you that you're swinging 100 miles per hour when you're actually swinging 105 or 95. But if you gain 5 miles per hour, it will tell you gain 5 miles per hour, which is really the whole idea. You want to see how fast you're playing, but you also want to have accurate numbers when you're doing that. And the one that's most accurate for us was the PRGR. All right, so John T says, I have the outdoor version of the AccuStrike mat. Tried it yesterday for the first time. It's very cool. Question, have you found that it shows the club striking the mat a little earlier than actual? If I'm hitting a few inches early, can you recommend anything without seeing my swing? So it's okay if it roughs it up a little bit. If it's a few inches, then that's probably too much. But if it's like an inch before the golf ball, that's fine. You might see it start to rough up a little bit there, because you got to think, that AccuStrike mat, it's the ball is just sitting, it's not like grass where it's thicker, right? It's just sitting right on top of that. So typically, when you're hitting off a turf, you have a little bit underneath the golf ball where you're going to hit the turf a little bit, and the club can get through it and still hit the ball really, really solid. Whereas on the AccuStrike mat, you don't have that. So you may hit it just a little bit before and it's still fine. So, but if you're hitting it like 2-3 inches before, that's a chunk. And that's not what you want. So if you're hitting it like an inch before, you're seeing that it start to rough up a little bit like an inch before, that's fine. You're going to be okay there. But if it's more than that, then you need to start working through the stop chunking and topping course, because your low point is probably too far before the golf ball. When I say low point, I'm talking where the club comes down, reaches this low point, and then works back up. So if your club the club's hitting the AccuStrike mat like 2 or 3 inches before that, that means that your low point's happening a little too soon. So we want to get that low point ahead of the golf ball, so that way you can make ball first contact and then the ground, right? So what I'd recommend working on is the stop chunking and topping course, because the biggest reasons why I see that low point be off is one or two reasons, or both of these reasons. So one is not loading up properly. So when we load up, we want to get nice and behind this golf ball, nice and angled away like this. If you're loading up like this, where you're not staying behind the golf ball, you're kind of leaning toward, you're getting your nose out ahead, well, what you're typically going to do is you're going to fall away in the downswing, and there's where your chunk happens. So the dot drill in the stop chunking and topping course get you to stay behind the golf ball a little bit better. So that way you can get a good weight transfer to your lead side and get that low point moving forward. So that can happen, and then the fall away, poor weight shift in the downswing. The other thing that can happen is maybe you are getting loaded up perfectly, but you just don't shift your weight. You just stay back here and you just kind of throw the arms at it, and you don't get that good weight shift to the lead side. So that's going to be kind of the weight shift drills from the stop, chunking, and topping course to get that low point moving forward. So work through those drills in the stop, chunking, and topping course, and that'll get you to where you get that low point working a little bit better. And you can work on that really cool with the AccuStrike mat and get some good feedback there. So to get to that stop, chunking, and topping course, go to the top of the screen, click the house icon. That'll take you to the home page. Scroll down the home page. You'll see a list of all the courses, 20 plus courses that are on the website. The bonus course there, you'll see stop, chunking, and topping. Get started and work through those drills. All right, so a couple more questions here. I'm not even going to try to pronounce your name. Evgenia. I apologize if I'm not. Evgenia. That's my best effort there. So sorry about that if I'm mispronouncing that. But they have a question. They say, hello, Q. I'm a new TSG. I'm loving the site. All right, welcome to the website. Glad to have you here. It says, I'm starting the 20-minute distance fix, and I understood all important concepts, but I have two questions. First is whether 100% effort is recommended if I had a golfer elbow in the past. I'm okay now. I'm 51 years old. The second, all right, so let's answer that first question first. If you're okay now, then yeah, I would say, do what you're comfortable with. If it starts to flare up, then you're probably not going to get 100% effort, but you also have to temper your expectations with the results that you're going to get. Swinging with 100% effort, getting that neural adaptation is a big part of the program. So if you're not able to do that, then you have to temper your expectations a little bit. You may still be able to gain a lot of distance in miles per hour, but maybe not as much as you would if you could get that. So if you're fine, you don't have any pain right now. The thing about the 20-minute distance fix is it's 20 minutes. You're taking 20 swings. So we're not overdoing anything. If you were out there and it was 100 swings for, every single day, 100% effort, then, you'd be looking at, that'd be a lot of wear and tear on you. But we're asking for 20 swings, right? 2 to 3 days a week. Right, it's 20 swings, 100% effort, 2 to 3 days a week. So it's not very much. And the cool part is with that low amount of volume, we can get great results doing that. So that's what I'd recommend doing. But if you get that flare up, then typically that golfer elbow, what I found is from really pounding into those golf mats. That's a lot of times how those happen. Every now and then I get that sore elbow, and we have these mats at the course here. They're just rock hard, and I pound into the mats, and then my elbow kind of hurts the next day. That's typically when it happens for me. So if you get that, just I don't ever get that when I'm hitting my driver off of a tee because there's no impact with the ground. So if you get it from hitting the driver off the tee, just take a break, ease off of it. You may not be able to go 100% effort, but if you feel good, then I don't see any issue with it. Second question is how to square up the club face at impact with the driver. Clay explained a trick in another video I watched in YouTube that shows how to twist your wrist in order to close the face. This worked wonderfully to me, but only with irons. What can I do with the driver? It's the same with the driver. It's not any different with the driver. It's just that it's going to be a little bit harder to control because it's a longer club. But the move course is where we talk about that. So when you're speed training, the outcome of the shot, the result of the shot, we don't care because you're speed training. You're giving 100% effort. You're going to hit it all over the place. Okay. But your speed training swing where you're going 100% effort, that's going to be different than your playing speed swing. So your playing speed swing is the one where you are able to control it a lot better. But as your 100% effort swing goes up, so is your playing speed swing. Your playing speed is also going to go up. So, for instance, myself, I've done the speed training. I got to where my 100% effort swing was 123 miles per hour. That's why I initially did it. I've actually got up to 129 miles per hour recently, but I got up to where I could do 123 miles per hour. I started at 110, but my playing speed, so that was my all-out 100% effort, 123 miles per hour. It was not a good shot. I hooked it off the planet. Basically, when I remember that swing vividly, it was a big old looping hook, way on the left side of the driving range, and it's a wide driving range. So, but my playing speed went up to about 117, 118. So as your 100% effort swing goes up, so is your playing speed swing. But if you're wanting to work on squaring up the driver face as well, that move course is going to be the one to work on to get that proper feeling of that turning of the handle. And again, it's the same as the irons. It's just the sensation is now I'm not hitting down into the ground. I'm letting the club miss the ground, and then I'm hitting up into the golf ball. That's the only real difference with the driver there. But the squaring of the face is basically the same. So go to the move course, work through the drills in the move course. To get to the move course, click the house icon at the top of the screen. That'll take you to the home page. And then on the home page, scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses. Click on the move. So Steve H says, at end of takeaway, my hands are waist high. In your videos, hands look lower, maybe hips or lower. Are my hands too high? I don't think so. I mean, your takeaway, your takeaway, typically your takeaway is when the club is first parallel to the ground. That's what a lot of people call the takeaway. There's nothing that necessarily, defines that. So you're saying your hands are waist high in your videos. It looks like you're maybe hips or lower. So hips. So, okay. So a little bit lower. So that just means you have a wider takeaway. Nothing wrong with that. So a nice wide takeaway. That's good. That's going to help you to get your shoulders more involved. So I would say no issues there. That's completely fine. All right, so one more question here, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So Ron F. says, this is kind of a longer question, but we'll give it a try. I can be at the range hitting my irons perfectly with solid contact with correct shaftling and good distance with a slight draw for many shots in a row, sometimes 100 or more, and some days only about 20. Then something happens where all my shots start to shoot about 45 degrees to the right, which also includes a wicked slice. I cannot. So looks like it cut off there. So sounds like you're shanking it, right? So if the ball is just suddenly going 45 degrees off to the right, you're probably hitting it on this hosel area, right in this area. So that's why I would look at your swing on video and see if that's what's going on. But you can take some foot powder spray and spray it on your club face, maybe get a little bit on the hosel too, and you'll be able to see some dimples there on the hosel on those shots when that happens. So foot powder spray, you can get it about any pharmacy. I recommend the Odor Eaters, Odor X. It's like a yellow can. It's the best for coverage. I think it looks the best. They also have some that's specifically made for golf. It's called Strike Spray. I've never used it, but I've heard it's awesome. So you may want to find that. I think you can get it on Amazon. So use that, spray it on the face. If you're hitting slices or if you're hitting it off the heel, right? If you're hitting it off the hosel, if you're hitting it off the hosel, then oftentimes you're probably hitting it in the heel and you're not even knowing it, right? You're probably hitting it in the heel, and which is really close to a hosel shot. So I'm guessing a lot of your strikes are in this area of the face. So what I try to do is intentionally try to strike it on the toe to get that strike more in the center of the face. If you actually strike it in the toe, then just ease off the feeling. That's great. It means you've made change. Just ease off the feeling a little bit. And then if you still strike it in the heel, then you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to exaggerate it even more. You may even want to put a constraint there. So if your golf ball is here, you can put another golf ball kind of outside of it, just outside of it, and then you can't hit the golf ball on the outside, right? You got to hit the one on the inside. And a lot of times, subconsciously, you'll make that happen because everything we do basically is to avoid pain, right? So you're going to do that to avoid the pain of hitting that shot, of hitting the other ball, right? Hitting two balls at the same time. That just sounds bad, right? So you put that there. One thing you can do, I guarantee you, I won't necessarily guarantee it, but there's a very high likelihood you won't shank or hit it off the hosel. You'll get this shot off the toe. Put your phone right there. Instead of another golf ball, put the phone there. If there's not enough pain in thinking that a golf ball is there, put your phone or your watch there, and you'll be you'll concentrate a heck of a lot more on getting that strike on the toe. I'll tell you that much. So give that a try. I mean, at your own risk, right? But I guarantee you'll try a lot harder if you do that. So get those strikes more out in the toe, and keep doing that until you actually strike. Until you are trying to hit the ball on the toe, and you're actually hitting the ball off the toe. And at that point, your feel is real, and then you can ease off of that feeling a little bit and get to be you're essentially calibrated to that at that point, right? So that's what I'd recommend doing to get rid of that shank shot. So thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Real quick, you probably saw at the top of the screen there, office hour schedule is changing next week. So this office hours is going to be moved to 11. Wednesday is going to be at 11, and then Friday is going to be 11. So all the ones that were at 9 a.m. before are going to be moved to 11 a.m. So this is going to give me time in the morning to be able to practice and play and stuff like that. In the summertime, the hot summers and the thunderstorm summers here in Florida. In the afternoon, it's no bueno. So I won't be able to do that. So adjust your schedule. Hopefully we can get some more people to join us if we start at 11. But thanks everybody for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow. This week is still the same schedule, but next week is when it's going to be effective. So everybody have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time.